is this one? Okay, I'd like to call a special February 24th special council meeting to order. Do we want to do the pledge on this one? No. Okay. All right, we got a, who do you want me to take this, Mike? Or do you want to take it?
Go ahead.
Resolution ordering the improvement and preparation of the plans for Big Pine Trail. Let's get right into it. So we've heard a lot of testimony here. Do we want to move forward on it or hold off on it? Is this a 4/5 vote?
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm just going to get it over with and say I'm going to vote against it. So I think we should put it on hold. That'll be a motion. As long as the people are willing to tolerate it. So I guess that's at the end of that, huh?
I think you have to have an up or down
Okay.
vote first.
Take a second.
So that is a motion. Do we have a second on that?
Second it.
Okay, we got a second by Andrews. Any discussion?
I want to understand the motion. I'm sorry.
The motion is to delay. A couple of options, just to help the discussion maybe. You could order plans and specs if you think you're going to do it the next year or two, but there is a cost to that. So if you don't want to do the project this year, just delaying and starting over next year makes some sense. Another just comment to make on this one and other ones we've been arguing about for the last month or two or three. Delaying it's fine if the neighbor doesn't want it. I don't see a problem with that at all. It's just if you're going to do the project, you have an assessment policy, you got to try to stick with it or don't do any of these projects for now until you redo the assessment policy. This project, the Big Pine, for example, is in the low end of the appraisals. That appraisal company knows values very, very well. They would stand up in court. I've litigated many of them. So if you don't like those assessments, and I know every project people don't like paying it. You hear that every assessment hearing, and I wouldn't either on my project. But that's what it costs. So that's another point. Not if you're going to delay it, that's not relevant now. But on this one, and there's several others that you're debating. If you can't stomach the assessment methodology, don't do the project because you can't ignore our assessment policy. Then go back to the drawing board, redo assessment policy, raise taxes, do whatever you're going to do to pay for it some other way. But you can't have it both ways. If you're doing a project, you got to follow the policy, or our finances are not going to hold up.
Correct. So do we have to address the assessment policy in this motion
Not at all.
or just
Not
delay
at all.
the Big Pine
But there's
Trail?
one more to come. You have another project coming forward here. But in Big Pine, I just wanted to clarify that. I mean, at least several ones would be, you could vote against this, but you do need 4 votes to go forward. So that point, or you could delay, agree to do plans and specs, but it doesn't mean you're going to do the project this year. You could just get them ready for a future year. Or I think your motion was, just to clarify your question, it's a motion to deny or table and bring this back to the drawing board at the earliest next winter. Meaning the
That's what I would say. Delay the drawings to see how the road holds up. So that would be my motion, to delay it and
We're
assess it.
talking about 1 year.
No, we're just talking about until we assess it and
Well, at
see
least
how the
like
road
today's
holds
point, at
up
least
and where
this
it
year,
is.
because it's going to be too late in the construction season. If you wait any longer, you can't get it done in 2020.
So we could call it 1 year, but
At least 1 year. It wouldn't happen even if the road's bad, it's going to be too late to fix it it's going to get too late.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
okay, so that's my motion.
And I seconded it.
Have a second by Mr. Andrews. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
I only heard 2 people.
Well, it doesn't matter. You've got opposing votes, so it's...
You need to vote.
You can
Then I'm gonna say
abstain,
nay.
but it should be yes, no, or abstain. One of the, I don't know
Okay,
why you
so-
abstain, but
vote.
yeah.
So
That's still informative because you need all 4 to vote yes, or you cannot do a project. So
So we'll put it off, good luck. I hope it holds up good, and I'd like to see nothing more than to get a few more years out of a road, so. Okay, number 2, resolution ordering improvement and preparational plans for Wildwind Ranch Drive. So, in what you said about assessments, I do have a real issue with our assessment policy. I don't have an issue with moving forward on Wildwind Ranch Drive.
Well, like I said this before with Daggett, but just to think ahead here, if you want to vote yes on number 3 here on the agenda, that is not agreeing to any assessment. The assessment hearing comes later. But inside of the feasibility study is a proposed assessment methodology. That's what they've seen. And so if you're not going to stick with that plan, you better start thinking pretty fast here, because we're running the project, and that is our policy. They look in line with what I'm used to. I don't see any reason not to follow the policy. Yes, I heard lots of negative feedback, but I didn't think any of it was persuaded me to change your assessment policy. I don't have a vote here, but the assessment, the appraisal process is fair. It's based on a company that does them all over the state.
I hear that all the time, but I am not comfortable with it, and that's all I want to make known. I would like to move Wildwind Ranch forward, but somehow I'd like to get comfortable with their policy.
And I think you got to go back and ask that committee to start over again, because you can't. You got to be, back to one of your questions. You got to be consistent.
Yeah.
You can't do one thing in one project and another thing in another project. That's why you have policies.
I agree. I just don't see the consistency in it, and that's where I have a problem with it.
Dave, what part of it don't you like?
The Wildwind Ranch Drive assessment for roads is $4,000. Big Pine Trail, the assessment is $4,000 on the off-lake side of it. I mean, except there's some of them that are $2,000.
Right.
You know, so, I mean, they're right there. There's one that's a 2-acre lot that's $2,000. The other ones are 1-acre lots that are $4,000. To me, that's not consistent. You can get 2 lots out of that 2-acre lot. So to me, it's not consistent. I mean, there's holes in every one that I've seen. I can pull things apart and say, how about this?
I thought we had asked the planning commission to take a second look at that. Did they ever?
Public
Huh?
Works.
Public Works.
Thank you, Public Works. Did they ever do that?
Well, they have. Yeah, come on up, Ted, please.
Well, Ted's coming up. I will tell you, it's hard, like I said, every neighborhood's different. So I'll challenge you. Any assessment policy you dream up, I guarantee you're not going to like it or think it's unfair in certain ones or it's inconsistent. I've seen hundreds of them. It's impossible to work a plan up that everyone's going to like. You can't do it.
No,
You got to pick something that holds up legally. But if you go per foot, what if you got and I've had this argument, 100-foot lots, but some lots are 98, and so they don't get, and some are 103. The per lot doesn't work, so you go to a front foot. Well, it's a corner
If you've got
lot.
one residential home there, it's one use. It should be, in my mind, but I'm not going to try to answer it. But if you're on the lake, it's more than if you're off the lake, and you're both driving on the same road to get to your house. I mean, there's another example of,
It's based off that appraisal. Again, it's
I don't
based off
like
the
that
appraisal.
appraisal, though, Ted. I never have.
Okay, you tell us, you tell
No,
the
I
commission
know.
what to do.
But
Because
we
we've
authorized
beat it
you to go
death.
ahead and have the appraisal done. I get it, but now it comes back and I can't digest it.
Well, we
It just
taken and
keeps
sat
coming
for
up.
a year and we beat it to death, the commission did.
I know.
And you sat there most of the time.
I know.
Sometimes you said sometimes you didn't. It's the best we came up with, and without clear direction from this body, nothing else is gonna happen.
So we're going to have to get to a point
All
and try
five
to
of you
come
gotta
up with
sit
clear
down with us
direction.
and come up with an idea, because this will not move forward, and you all have to agree with it. Don't sit there and just stare at me. You have to give us direction.
Well, and my point is, I guarantee you, however you change it, it's going to be the exact same feeling as a council member. I don't care what your policy is. You're going to redo it, give notice to the people that are on that project, and they are going to complain. Every assessment hearing I've ever
No,
been
I
to.
get that.
Well, and then you're going to hear, oh, that's not right on this one. You're going to have the exact same problems no matter what you do. So at some point, you need to trust some policy and move with it, and it's not going to feel good because it stinks having to assess people.
But it's, for an example, the best use case of property, that comes up. So if you've got a 5-acre chunk, you could potentially make 5 lots out of that. So then the assessment is times 5. But then you go over to the next one, and that's a 5-acre chunk, and it's not times 5, it's only 1.
Like the Wildwind Ranch?
Yeah, and
Okay,
that has to go through zoning.
but those only can be one lot apiece according to the way it is right now. We applied that.
Mr.
Yeah.
Posted said that you couldn't split those during the break.
Well, you could, believe me, you could, and it will happen sometime because that's a residential
Under current
neighborhood.
zoning. He is our zoning administrator. So I'm going to listen to John at this point.
Okay.
So question for you folks. It's obvious we're not going to solve the perfect assessment policy in this discussion, but you do have a resolution in front of you to vote on. So I would suggest that you consider the resolution as presented and vote on that.
And then, let's do the resolution, then I have a question I'm going to ask on this.
Okay, so I'm going to read the resolution and be quiet and let you guys move forward on
On
it.
this assessment for Wildwood Ranch, I make a motion that we move forward with it and we do it.
I second it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any other conversation? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On the assessment, I think we're getting hung up with the term evaluation. That's what I'm hearing. Is this one gets a higher evaluation than this one and everything bounces around? We have to assess for the roads. You can't. I had a corner lot, undeveloped, 2000? I want to say 2000. They came through and put pavement in. Zero notice to me. I got a bill in the mail from the city. $3,000, half-acre lot. That's more expensive than what we're looking at here.
No, it's not. It's a per use. You got a lot there. You got a house on it. It'd be $4,000 now.
No, I did not have a house.
Well, you will. I mean, you had to do it to get your permit to build a house.
I had to pay off the assessment in order to pay.
Get the permit to build your house.
Yeah. And keep in mind, I was getting ready to go pull a
Well,
permit. so
I
had to
would
write
be
a check
willing
for
to
it.
work on this as much as anybody could, because in order for me to vote on it and keep moving forward, I got to get comfortable
You
with
have to
something.
remember, it can't be just your way.
I know.
Well, that's what you're doing right now.
Oh, okay. I'm a noisy one. I'm sitting in the middle of here.
But the thing of it is, we have to look at it that we have to do an assessment. Brad is right. It doesn't matter. They're going to be not happy with us at anything we do. If it's free, and they don't realize that they're paying for everybody else's then because we're going to tax everybody. So they're going to get
Yeah.
caught one way or the other.
No, it's not fun being a council member sometimes. I mean, that's the problem. I mean,
I believe in contributing, and I believe in a fair assessment.
At any
I'm
rate,
not
with either
comfortable.
one of these projects, as far as I'm concerned, I don't feel that the assessment on this one is excessive. 66, I have some questions left on that one, but that's a different ballgame.
I think the
Whole
good part is
different-
we've had a third party use a process.
Yep.
We might not agree with it, understand.
A third party from Blaine.
They go, well,
Okay.
they've done.
We just need to look into it, and maybe I'll dig in. I don't know.
So in at number 4 here, we might as well drop off Big Pine Trail.
Yep.
Is that what you're saying?
So consider approval of engineering proposal for Wildwood Ranch Road. Okay, do we have a motion for that one?
I so move.
Have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
so to be clear, it was. And to be clear, I think that was intentional. You took out Big Pine from that motion, right?
Correct.
I mean, just to be clear.
Yep, correct. Okay, next. This is a good one, too. Let's discuss the use of interactive television at council meetings. Who wants to start with this?
I will.
Okay.
I feel that if you've got 5 council members and they're all available to participate, they should be allowed to participate. The state says that you can participate by interactive television, and it's been allowed. If we want to say we would only allow that if we have at least three council members sitting, okay, or whatever. But I feel even discussions today could have been enhanced. If Dave Schrupp had been on the phone, I feel we could have enhanced the discussions at the last city council meeting if we'd had all 5 of us participating. I agree it's an extra hassle because you've got a roll call, and I think we should try to be here, but I'd like to keep 5 members involved in the process. I heard some discussion today that we couldn't do meetings back in January because everybody wasn't here. I just have concerns about delaying stuff because people aren't in town, and some people travel. So I just think it's a very useful thing that the state allows.
And I totally disagree with everything you just said, so just for the record. I did talk to Mr. Person about that, and we can, on a case-by-case deal, allow teleconferencing or Skyping or whatever you want to call it, which we need to do for the March 24th meeting, and I think we can do that, so we can move that project forward.
Well, the "we" part is council, but I said
Council
that-
can, correct.
3 votes, I think you can be as custom, the state does allow it, but if there's 3 votes to allow it in some cases, not others, or all the time, or none of the time, you have the power as a council to create that policy.
So, John, I'm going to
Or change
expound on this a little
Or change the
bit.
fee structure, right? That was another thing we talked about. You could change, like, you don't get paid at a per diem if you're not physically here or
Says you
something.
can't do that.
Well, the council sets the policy on fees.
Okay, fair enough.
So I feel
good idea,
like
by the
if
way,
we're
but-
here, if I wasn't looking at these people in the crowd and directly have conversation with them, I wouldn't get the feel that I have if I'm down in Jamaica or Mexico or something. I feel it's a responsibility for us coming into this position to be here. Now, I also agree that there are times when you can't be, and I'm totally subject to that, but I don't want to get where it's normal policy, and here we are having meeting after meeting, and there's 2 of us sitting up here, and everybody else is on TV cameras. And that's where it could go, okay?
Mr. Mayor?
Let me comment. My concern is, though, if you're not here in March 24th and you want to call in, or someone else wants to call in, fabulous. But I was not allowed to do that in January. I'm just saying it's being one by one, and you can't always predict ahead of time who's not going to be here or who's going to be out of town. You might know ahead of time, you might not. I just don't think we should play favorites. I think we should let all 5 elected council members participate as much as possible. Things happen.
I get it. I just don't like it. Did you want to say something, Mike? Go ahead.
Before you get wrapped around the axle on does this work and is it viable, if John Colstead is willing to talk about his experience with interactive communication, I would like you to get his take, which is
Okay.
much different than yours.
Okay.
As you know, I spent a few years in the military. We use VTC on a daily basis. We talked to people when I was in Afghanistan who were all over the country. We were in charge of 3,500 people that were on the ground, boots on the ground, out doing things. And that's how we understood what was going on and how we made decisions on a daily basis. We had a meeting at 7 o'clock every morning with our people. We had, and then another one immediately afterwards with the 4-star general in charge of everything in Afghanistan. That's how he conducted business. We talked to people in the United States every evening because that's how we had to do business. When I was working at state headquarters here in Minnesota for the National Guard, we used on a weekly basis VTC to talk to people. Some colonels were sitting at their desks at their office. It saved money, it saved gas, it saved everything to do this. There's nothing wrong with looking at someone's face on a screen and talking to them. You certainly could project that into your budget for the new building that you have, so that if someone is talking on via phone or via the video, they would be able to, the audience would be able to see their face, so they could see who's talking. You could also make it so that if someone comes up to the microphone here and wants to address the council, that the person that's Skyping in can see that person. So it's something that we've been using for I've been retired for over 6 years. It's something that the military and everybody else in the world has been using for the last 10 to 15 years.
I agree, John, and that's a great tool for that, especially if you're in Afghanistan. But that's like a board of directors meeting. It's like a bank meeting. It's like something like this. This, to me, in my position here, the public is the number one in this meeting right here. And I like to see them, and I like to see them sigh and move and walk out of the room. It gives me a feel of what's going on, because they're the people that I'm responsible, accountable to, okay? And if you're here, the impact is tremendously different than if you're down sitting on a beach someplace else. So
If you make it
as
so
long
that-
as I'm here, I'm going to oppose it. Now, I can get out of here. We got an election coming up, as Trump says, this fall. Get me out of here. God love you. But as long as I'm here, I am going to oppose it, because I think being here is very important. Now, on a case-by-case basis, like the March 24th meeting, we can all agree or disagree, but we could allow it to move that project forward. That'd be good. Whether I'm here or not doesn't matter. But that's my stand, and it's going to take a lot of talking to change my personal feeling on it.
You can have a personal feeling, but you're only one vote.
Absolutely, vote me out. Go ahead, I'm just telling you my feeling.
Two issues from me. One, I want to see a quorum here, because I think the people have a right to see at least 2/3 of their council sit here and make the decisions. Or I guess it would be, what would it be, whatever it would be. I think that they have a right, that expectation. That's my personal feeling. Secondly, I want the city to have a written policy by the city that we all, whether we agree or disagree with it, the majority of us agree to. And I want it to be the city's policy, because I don't want them to point to the state statute, which is out here, okay? I want it specific to what is allowed, and then not just the council, but into the committee meetings. Because I think they should have a right to call into committee meetings as well.
And they do.
Well,
I think they do.
I have called
formally.
into committee meetings.
Yeah.
I know that it's occurred, but it's never been formally
I've
put in
called into
place.
city council meetings where I am on the phone listening and I can't talk and I can't vote. I feel that is denying me.
If you're
my
calling in,
elected-
if you're being
my
allowed to
elected-
call in, you should be able to vote. I don't have a problem with that, John.
Can't do that.
You got to be
That's
seen.
not allowed.
You got to be seen to do it.
The audience has to be able to see you. They
Right.
have to be able to see you vote.
Okay.
And I'm all for that.
Right, it has to be in a public place, too, where,
Actually, you don't have to do that anymore.
well,
That's changed.
what I read in the thing, it showed it, said it.
I'll show it to you. It's
You can be
changed.
more, what I was saying is, as a council, it takes 3 votes, but I mean, you can be more restricted than that. You can't be more liberal, is my
Yeah.
understanding, but you can be more restrictive. So if you want to say you need a quorum and then, or,
But I want city policy on it, so that while state law changed last week, so we can now do it this way, and you don't have it bouncing all over the place. I want it to be a city policy.
I don't want Cross Lake to be like St. Paul or Minneapolis. I want it to remain Cross Lake. And that's a small town deal.
I agree with you. I think there should be a quorum here, because I don't think you want to get to a situation where there's one person here.
Well, then that could happen. And I'll be very frank with you. If I walk in here and I find out I'm the only person here, I'm going to walk out. You're not going to have a meeting. I'll leave.
So
I mean, that's
I
the way it
move that we make a motion to allow some kind, Skyping, whatever you want to call it, for the March 24th meeting for the purpose of moving the Daggett Bay Road project forward. So I'm going to make that motion, and I think we can do that, correct?
And you're going to use this as a test case. Is that
Well,
what I'm
yeah,
getting?
but I mean, it's solving our immediate problem that we have.
Okay. I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. And any other discussion on it?
and to be clear, right now, again, you could do more than that, but for now, your motion is to limit to that one meeting to be determined for future use, which I've heard disagreement on this, but like any motion, if you get 3 votes, that's a,
Well, that's taking care of our immediate need right now. So we got a motion and a second. Any discussion on
Can I
it?
ask what the immediate need is?
Pardon?
Can I ask what the immediate need is?
Well, just to move the Daggett so we can get moved into City Hall, so we can move the sewer project forward. That's what it's about on the 24th. And I am not going to be here on the 24th.
Well, there's 4 other people here, right?
No,
No, I don't think there is.
Dave Shrup's out of town.
Yeah. So
these are 4 crystals.
that is the immediate
And I would like
and
to
we
keep
need 4.
process moving. I really think we shouldn't slow up City Hall because one or more of us is out of town. And that's been my gripe all along.
So we have got a motion and a second that allows that to happen. Okay, I mean, then we could do that on a case by case. So all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, all in favor.
No.
So now we got that
Now, let
done.
me ask you a fair question. Does your phone allow you to Skype?
Well, I don't know, you can face it.
Because we have to see we have to see his face in order for him to vote.
I don't have to be here. I'm going to be gone.
Trump is going to.
Shrupp's going to be here.
Oh, okay.
He's the
God,
one that'll be
don't put
calling
me on
in,
the end
right?
of that.
so to answer Gary's question, I mean, like I said, you can be more restrictive, and you just made a limited vote, something different than the statute, but you still got to follow that. If the state statute says the screen, those things have to comply, or the council member calling in, Shar should not let them participate. We do have to follow
They've
that.
got to see and be seen.
Yes, so you've allowed that to happen, but if in practice Dave shows up and he doesn't have the right technology and he can't, Shar says it's not going to work, that motion wouldn't have helped, is what I'm trying to,
Yeah, if Dave is wherever he is and he can't get through on a line or something, then it fails. You can't do it.
Right, that's what I just make clear, because you still got to follow, we could still, in the end, have to follow state statute.
All right.
You can't do an absentee vote either or anything
No.
early. I mean, you got to be here, so.
To carry this one step further, I would like to direct staff to start working on a policy.
Do we need a motion?
Huh?
Do we need a motion?
Well, we're discussion right now. I'm just staying in discussion. But that's what I would like to see happen, is direct staff to start working on a policy. Now,
So, Gary, just so you know, I totally agree with you. You can outvote me and do it, and then we'll be done with this. But until you do, I'm going to oppose it.
But let's, like Ted's point, I mean, staff can make policies, but we need direction, so
yeah,
it's okay to have disagreement, and that, to be honest, if there is no disagreement, I think that's unhealthy. I think you guys should argue once in a while, or we're not doing our job. You guys should not all have the same opinion.
but yeah, I think we need to.
Aaron, before you make that motion, I would suggest that, to have a policy over a one-off like that is, because you might never do that one-off again for that meeting, because you're making a decision
No.
by policy
I
tonight
just said
to do that for this one instance.
No, I'm not doing it for one instant. I'm saying put together a policy that will guide us down the road in the future.
Sure.
Well, I think two of you are saying you want it to happen, the unsaid rule would be you should attend whenever you can.
Yes.
But it should be more often. You can do it whenever but at least one disagrees, but.
There should be a policy in place that says when we do it and when we don't do it. And what is allowed? 1, 2, 3, 5?
So, and
I mean,
Mike, I wouldn't be opposed if there was a quorum here to allow it, as long as it didn't disrupt the meeting, like it did that one time.
Well,
It did.
the reason that meeting was disrupted is
Well-
because everyone got on their phone and knocked our
Whatever,
yes,
for whatever
down.
reason,
And
but
we
it was,
fixed that.
it was very disruptive at that
And we
meeting.
fixed that.
Okay.
So if I understand what you're saying, you'd be okay with a policy to allow one or two council members Skype in, interactive television, or whatever you want to call it, provided there were 3 members present. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
And I would like to add in there that we limit it to 2 or 3 times a year or something. So it's not a every other month policy.
I think
Otherwise, you shouldn't be on this board. I mean, that's my
you're
one
saying
feeling.
per council member. You're
Yeah.
not saying
I think he is.
Yeah.
Which is, you
Yeah.
can make that policy.
each council member is only allowed to Skype in twice or 3 times, whatever. I mean, put something together that we can look at and work with.
Well, can we?
So I'll make that as a motion.
Could we direct staff and say at least 3 council members have to be here? And you can want to say no more than 3 times a year to more than 2 times a year, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
I've heard enough consensus. I think we got enough direction to come up with a policy, come back for a formal vote on the next council meeting.
Yeah, and then in April, we resolved the issue, and I realize Dave is back, and I don't know if anybody else
he's
is
back
gone
in
or
April.
not. I might be gone, not April, but one of them.
Would you like us to have this for March?
Good, no, I'll be here for March.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
Yeah. Second.
Got a second? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Marcia, did you have something you want to say?
I just wondered if that $59,000 audio video for the council room in the new building won't be able to, will be able to,
I got my phone right here. That'll handle it.
well, I know, but you got a $59,000, deal on audio and video for the council room. They should be able to interact with the council meeting without a
It's above my pay scale, but we will look into it.
We got another one here.
They should be able to have closed captioning on a
You would think. No
Okay,
problem.
we got one more here. A resolution approving plans and specs and ordering advertisement for bids for the Daggett Bay Road project. So that is moving the sewer project ahead on Daggett Bay and the road. We have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, you got a I'm
I have a
sorry.
question that doesn't regard anything what we're talking about earlier. The interest rate on the assessment, why is not related to the prime rate? Why is it higher?
That's for discussion, and we will look at that.
Okay, it's not the actual assessment, it'll probably be lower than that. Engineers like to aim a little high, so there's a little bit of cushion. Okay, good odds it'll be 4, but we don't know until we get to the time of doing it. Okay.
Yep. Okay, we got a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We're adjourned.